The Anaheim Ducks bow down to the Kings, and we're going to take a review of how the forwards have been doing this year. That and much more on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everydayers. Thanks for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Kyle Carr. I'm a lifelong Anaheim Ducks fan, and I've spent multiple years covering collegiate sports, including college hockey. But today we're talking Anaheim Ducks. We have to recap the unfortunate turnout that was the Ducks performance at the crypto.com arena, or if you're a Salt Dog, as you know it, as Staples Arena. And then we're going to look at just how well the top forwards have been doing, the top six, and then the bottom six, just respectively of how they are lined up based off of the quote unquote depth chart. But first things first, before we get into the Kings game, I just have to say I am so excited. I just received today my Dost Wall Lukash Dostal collab Vans. Oh my goodness, look how beautiful they are. They got the orange on the inside, the sneaky ducks on the tongue, the sole there with the ducks. Lucas made this so we could have some day-to-day shoes to wear, but also rock the Anaheim Ducks. And I got some of the friendship bracelets. So I just got all that today after a little bit of a watch party at Brewery X for Anaheim. Unfortunately, the Ducks could not perform for all of the people who showed up at Brewery X tonight, but you know what? I'll let them go. It was a weird night. The Ducks just could not get any type of officiating in their favor. They had the control of the beginning part of the game. The shots were like 10-2 at one point. They were really bringing it. Unfortunately, they gave up a kind of bad penalty, and Byfield capitalizes on the first power play of the game, and he gets right in the slot and scores. And then later in the second, like, I don't know, we've been talking about the Anaheim Ducks power play all season. It was abysmal tonight. They could not score to save their lives. But later on in the game, it's a 1-0 game for quite a while. And then Cutter Goche, this guy, he just had two back-to-back games where he had two goals, and he gets his 20th goal of the season. He's the fifth Anaheim Ducks to get his 20th goal in the season. So a lot of young prospects, a lot of guys getting 20 goals this year, which is really nice to spread that scoring wealth. And he gets it off a crazy clear by Anaheim, and Leo settles kind of a bouncing puck and then just feeds it right to Goche, and he gets the game early in the second, tied up. But then Anze Kopitar, like not even seconds later, maybe a minute or so, he gives the Kings the lead right away with a tip in from Anderson and Kuzmenko. Like, I was literally at the watch party. Everyone was cheering. I looked down to go tweet out, hey, Cutter gets his 20th goal. I'm trying to, share the wealth on social media. And the Kings make it a 2-1 game, like right off the hop. And they never looked back. The Ducks never had a chance to score again after that. This game resulted in a 6-1 loss. I'm at a loss of words just based on how this game went. It was the amount of penalties that the Ducks got that were pretty weak, but also the Ducks had 4 penalty chances today on the power play, and they got none of them. So it's hard to sit here and say, well, The Ducks had 6 penalties given to them, and the refs were against them, but they also had 4 power plays. So it goes both ways. I don't know. I felt like the penalties against Anaheim were pretty weak. Uh, the Kings, they scored on a power play goal to make it 3-1, which unfortunately it was that was one of the power plays where it was like literally Byfield, like he like tripped on his own skates, like it was his own fruition. Nothing was around him. He just kind of fell based off of the momentum of the play. They give him a power play, and then the Kings score to make it 3-1. And then Alex Laferriere, I'm thinking of Lafreniere from New York, but Alex Laferriere scores to make it 4-1. But it looks like it's off of a high stick. And immediately, as soon as the goal is scored, you can see Lukasz Dostal just like argumenting, like he's protesting right off the hop with the refs, like, whoa, 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 what's up with that? So Anaheim challenges. They challenged that it should have been called dead for a high stick in the offensive zone by the offensive team prior to the goal being scored. It goes under review. It's reviewed for quite a while. And look, I may not be the most perspective person or whatever, and I know how cameras work. I know there's certain things that, like, when you look at a different angle, it looks higher or lower or whatever. But this play was clearly a high stick. Like Laferriere, I keep wanting to say Lafreniere. Laferriere literally has his arms like completely stretched, like he is out above his head, bringing the stick to get the puck down. And they say, "Oh well, it's it. Yeah, his stick is definitely above, and it's a high stick. But where does it hit his stick to come down? It hits the center of his blade. Like his center of blade is above his head. His arms are outstretched. It hits the middle of his stick on the blade of the stick and then comes down and he settles it. It ends up in the back of the net. Like they showed like 4 or 5 different angles. At first, the broadcast, it was ESPN Tonight that had the broadcast, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, that totally looks like a high stick. Like you can see it's above his head. He's got his hand stretched out. Like this should be coming back, whatever." And then they bring on some rule analyst, and this guy's like, "Oh well, off of one of the angles after they showed like 3 or 4 different angles of where it was clearly based on a high stick. They show one from front on and it's like questionable on whether or not it was a high stick. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, well, I hope they have different angles cuz like it does look high, but like where it's hitting, I don't know. It could be below his shoulders, blah blah blah." Because based on the rule, if an offensive player hits the puck with his stick above the shoulders right here, right? If it's above the shoulders, it is considered a dead play and it needs to be a face off. And anything after that is no goal. Well, the dude's up here. There's his shoulders. He's up here. And it hits the middle of the blade. Like you can't even see my hands above the camera. And that's where the puck hit the stick. Nope. It's good goal. Reviewed. It's a good goal. 4-1 game. And after that, the Ducks were just kind of dead. Like it I just talked about it yesterday. Some people commented saying, "Oh, that's just, bias because you're watching whatever." That's every team. Everyone has they feel like the refs are out there to get them. Tonight was a very, very interesting game. There was a couple times where Vetrano was hooked and nothing was called. There was a couple times where literally Nesterenko gets straight tripped up against the boards after they just called the Byfield tripping, where he straight tripped up on his own skates. Like Truba went to go slide, Byfield jumps up and like, yeah, Truba loses his stick, but Byfield just falls because he jumps to try to avoid Truba, who doesn't touch him. Nothing happens. but it's considered a tripping. And then legit, like a couple plays later, Nesterenko goes to try to clear the puck across the blue line, and a Kings player bops his feet back. Like you watch his skate go back and straight trip up Nesterenko. The dude goes like head over heels into the neutral zone. No penalty. I don't know. It was just a very interesting game. I felt like the officiating, whatever, the storyline, even the ESPN broadcast was very Kings heavy. And it was just trying to push this Kings team into the playoffs and whatever. If they want to get the Kings the home ice advantage, after tonight's game, I can see why the Kings have such a good home record. Like, I don't know if it's because the refs just they get this pressure because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm in LA and there's all these celebrities around and look at the jumbotron. There's Will Ferrell and there's this guy and there's that actress and there's that actor and everything. I don't know, but they get a lot of crappy calls in their direction and nothing against the opponent team. Uh, Pretty much right off the hop. So like the Ducks, they kill the penalty after they challenge for the 4-1 goal. They challenge it. They claim it's a not a high stick, so the Ducks get charged with the delay of game, and then they fight that off. But then right at the end of the second, they get a penalty like after the whistle. So the third period starts with a penalty. The Kings get their third power play goal. And then later in the third period, they get their sixth goal. So it makes it 6-1. And just Anaheim couldn't get anything in their favor. They drew 6 penalties again. So that makes 18 penalties in 3 games. That's definitely not going to help with anything. But tonight was one of those games where it was like there was at least half of them where I didn't think that they deserved the penalties that were called on them, or at least they should have got something back after what was called on them versus what wasn't. And the Ducks, they did have 4 power plays. They couldn't capitalize on any of them. But I mean, they were like blatant, like this has to be a power play. And there was a couple more that should have been. But moving on, we got to look at how the forwards have been doing. I broke down the defense a few episodes ago, and I got requested to do the forwards. So we're going to do the top 6 in the next segment, and then we're going to have a little break and break down the bottom 6. I say bottom 6 because you'll see who the players are that involve the bottom 6, but we'll get to that shortly.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to baremattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's baremattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Baremattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, we got to get into breaking down just how the forward group has been doing because we already reviewed the defensive core. So let's look at the forwards. We're going to look into the top 6 first. And by top 6, I just mean the guys that are rostered. When you look at the lineups from game to game, these are the guys that are considered the first line and the second line. Whether or not you feel like they are the top 6 performers or not, That's up to you. But this is just how they are showing up in the lineup. So we'll go into the top 6 for this first segment, and then later we'll go into the bottom 6. After tonight, this is one of the things that has been absolutely great. I was so excited. I had a feeling that this was going to happen. I I don't want to say I predicted it, but I put it out there. I posted the question, does Cutter Goche get his 20th goal against the LA Kings? And he does. He ends up being the only goal scorer for Anaheim tonight. And that is 20 goals. He ends up being the 5th goal scorer for Anaheim to reach 20 goals this season. He has 79 games played. There's only a couple other players that have reached that 79 game mark. He has 20 goals, 23 assists, and 43 points total. He has been absolutely outstanding. He's right in the top 3 of the rookie players this season, just behind Celebrini and Lane Hudson. He's at a plus 10. That's pretty outstanding for being a rookie, being plus 10. Definitely an outstanding season this year. He has 2 power play goals. The power play has been kind of oriented towards certain players getting those goals. So understandable why he only has 2. He does have 3 game-winning goals, and 2 of which were in OT. We just saw the last one against Calgary, and then a couple games ago, he had another one in OT, and then just one in regulation. So 3 game-winning goals, 2 in OT. Definitely a great time for him. This guy's got 67 hits. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not afraid to throw the body. And then he's got 45 block shots, 19 takeaways, and 80 giveaways. And I have to tell you, these stats are just prior to the Kings game. So some of it might be different. I did adjust for the goal scored tonight and the game played, but some of the other stuff, his hits, blocks, all that, I'm not exactly sure what the update is. I put this all in just before the Kings game, so that could be very different after that game. Looking at the next forward, Leo Carlsson, he's got 73 games played, 20 goals, 24 assists, and 44 points. He also is a plus 10, and he's got 4 power play goals. Yay, yay, yay. And 5 game-winning goals. He has been lighting it up on the last minute goals this season and bringing the Ducks back from a deficit and getting them the lead. Leo Carlsson has been the man. 2 overtime game-winning goals this season. 24 hits, not as physical as Cutter, but he's kind of getting in his rhythm. 34 blocks. He's been eating some pucks there. 17 takeaways, 49 giveaways. So not nearly as much as Cutter has 80. Leo Carlsson only 49. And his face-off win percentage prior to the Kings game was 41.1%. Unfortunate that it's not above 50. And that's kind of something that the ESPN broadcast even talked about tonight, is that the Kings or the Ducks have been struggling on their face-offs. Alex Killorn, he's got 78 games played, 18 goals, 17 assists, 35 points. He's a plus 13, 0 power play goals, 5 game-winning goals for Killorn, and 1 OT out of those game winners. He's got 73 hits, 22 blocks, and he's got 10 takeaways and 60 giveaways. The Ducks, most of these statistics, you'll see the Ducks have way more giveaways than they do takeaways. It's one of those weird stats where anytime a Duck touches a puck and then it goes to the opposite opponent, it's considered a giveaway. So take it with a grain of salt. Then we're looking at Frank Vatrano on the second line. 77 games played. Well, now 78. So, sorry. Alex Killorn has 79 games played. Frank Vatrano, mixing up my names here. Frank Vatrano now has 78 games played, 21 goals, 22 assists, 43 points, and he is -9. The second line not doing so well. They are struggling in the plus-minus column. 3 power plays goals, as you could see a lot of the power play, at least recently, has been oriented to try to get Vetrano the goal off the one-timer. He has 1 shorthanded goal, and he's got 1 game-winning goal, 0 in OT. He is actually the leading forward when it comes to hits with 159. I'm sure it went up after the game against the Kings tonight. And his blocks are at 64, takeaways 13, and giveaways 49. He is tied with McTavish for most goals, and he hadn't scored since March 11th. That was a 13-game deficit where he just, from 13 games, could not get a goal. Finally gets this 21st last game against Calgary. So he is now tied with the goal leaders with McTavish. Ryan Strome, this guy, he is been playing pretty well. He's got 79 games played. He's got 10 goals, 31 assists, 41 points, and he's a -3. He's got 0 power play goals, 3 game-winning goals, 0 of which were in OT, 48 hits, 34 blocks, 19 takeaways, 64 giveaways, and his face-off percentage has been 41.6. So another under 50% center. It's been rough for Anaheim when it comes to face-offs. Troy Terry, this is the guy. I've been telling you he's been playing very well. He plays a very good 200-foot game. This season's been a little uncharacteristic of him when it comes to entering the score sheet and getting in the score column. But he's been playing. He played 74 games so far, 20 goals, 33 assists, and 53 points. He does lead the team in assists and points. He's a +2, 4 power play goals, 4 game-winning goals, and 1 of which was in OT. He's got 5 hits, not really a physical player, but he does know how to angle players off. So that's where he makes up for that. 29 block shots, 21 takeaways, and 64 giveaways. Speaking of, we're going to get into the second, the bottom 6 forwards. There's a little bit more than 6, but we're going to get into that after this. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Between my son's hockey games, my own hockey games, my life, my job, everything, sometimes I forget a meal or two. But when I need to get some protein, get some energy, get some just sustenance in my body, I take a handful of Wonderful Pistachio, and it is the snack that keeps me going. So make sure you get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And now we're going to review the bottom 6. I keep saying air quotes with the bottom 6 because these guys, they're not necessarily the bottom performers of the team, as we haven't even talked about Mason McTavish yet. He's considered a bottom 6 forward, and he's one of the leaders of points right now. So it's more of just mentioning that they are considered the 3rd or 4th line when you look at the lineups when they are distributed at the beginning of the game. So do not think that these guys are bottom 6, as in they aren't performing or anything like that. But let's take a look. So we got Trevor Zegras to start things off. This guy, he's at 54 games played, 12 goals, 19 assists, and 31 points. He's on a 10, well, up until tonight, he was on a 10-game point streak, 10 games, 10 points. He is at -8. A little unfortunate. But if you look at that 54 out of 80, well, at the end of the season, it'll be 82 games. Right now, the highest games played, because the Ducks have only played 80 games. So they're right there, kind of at the end of it. But he's only played 54 and he's been doing pretty swell. One thing that I did notice, he's at 43 hits in those 54 games. And again, that is before the LA game. So that could have gone up. Blocks 27 and takeaways 12, giveaways 46. He is definitely involved in a more physical game. Trevor Zegras, that is. And considering that his highest hit count before this season was 56, and that was in 75 games. He is at 44. Well, I'm sure like 44, 45 now in 54 games. That is the percentage definitely a lot higher. He's playing a much more physical game. Then we got Mason McTavish, our quote unquote third line center. He's at 73 games played. This guy has 21 goals. He is tied 4 goals with Frank Vetrano, 29 assists, and 50 points. He is +3. He's got 6 power play goals, as the top unit is pretty much aimed at getting him a one-timer to get him a goal. He's got 2 game-winning goals, one of which was in OT. That last game-winning goal that he got was against Edmonton. He's got 68 hits, 29 blocks, 15 takeaways, 48 giveaways, and his face-off win percentage is 49.7. Almost 50%, but again, just below. So that means the Ducks are starting off without the puck when it would be nice if they could win and have the puck possession. But something that was talked about in the broadcast again tonight was that the Ducks have been lacking in their face-off percentage. Something that was interesting also in tonight is that they definitely kept hinting and commenting that whenever the Ducks did have a power play, it was more individual than a unit. Like, it was a lot of individual efforts to try to like enter and score, but there was no like structure or like setting up, which I think we've been talking about for quite some time. Then we got Sam Colangelo. He's our next forward to talk about. He's at 29 games played. He's got 8 goals, 2 assists, 10 points altogether. He is a -6. He spent most of this season down with the San Diego Gulls, and he's been coming up and at least putting in a good effort. I've been noticing he's been playing pretty physical. He's got 2 game-winning goals, 2 power play goals, 1 game-winning goal, none in OT. He's got 61 hits already. That's 29 games. He's got 61 hits plus whatever happened tonight. 15 blocks, one takeaway, and 14 giveaways. Overall, he's been playing a very solid game out there since coming up from San Diego. Then we got Jansen Harkins. He's at his 60th game of the season. Ironically, this has been his highest season. Well, in regards to time on ice average, this has been his highest season. He's been playing quite a few minutes. I think his average is 10:55, just under 11 minutes. And as a fourth liner, that's pretty decent. Greg Cronin clearly has been trusting him and Isaac Lundestrom out there. 60 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists. He is at 6 points with a -13 now. But when you're the fourth liner, it's kind of understandable because you're usually against the top forwards on the other side. So -13 looks pretty bad, but he's been playing pretty solid this year. 0 power play goals, 1 game-winning goal, and 0 OT. Hits, he's at 131. So he's right there behind Vetrano, playing a very physical game, which you would definitely want out of your fourth line forwards. 38 block shots and 15 takeaways with 35 giveaways. Not too bad, not too shabby for our fourth line. Isaac Lundestrom, he's the fourth line center. He's basically been that center all season long. 76 games played, 4 goals, 11 assists, and 15 points. Unfortunately, he is a -10 with 0 power play goals, but he does have 1 game-winning goal. It was not in OT, 44 hits, and he's got 66 blocks and 14 takeaways, 25 giveaways, and his face-off win percentage is 47.6. So he's just below Mason McTavish, but he does lead all forwards in block shots. So when you're a fourth line center, that is absolutely what you want from them. So the Ducks are very lucky with Isaac Lundestrom. He plays a very defensive game as a fourth line center. He's not really built, or his game isn't really meant to create a lot of goals, but he definitely allows the other team to not score. Even though he is at a -10, it doesn't look like that. There's plenty of times where he has shut down top scorers. He's been playing very, very defensively, and he's been blocking a ton of shots. Then we got Brett Leeson. This guy, him and Nesterenko have been kind of going back and forth in the roster lately. He's at 61 games played, 5 goals, 12 assists, 17 points, -1. He's got 1 power play goal, 0 game-winning goals, and obviously 0 in OT. 62 hits and 44 blocks, 7 takeaways, and 29 giveaways. He's been playing pretty solid. And then we got Nikita Nesterenko, who just started coming up from San Diego at 19 games played, 4 goals, 1 assist, and he's got 5 points out of that. He's a -3, unfortunately, right now. And after the Kings game, I'm not sure if he was on the ice for a few of those goals. Granted, power play goals don't count towards your plus or minus, and the Kings did score 3 power play goals tonight. So not sure how that turned out, but he's at 0 game-winning goals, 0 obviously in OT, 39 hits. So that's pretty good. 18 games played. He's at 39 hits, 7 blocks, 2 takeaways, and 7 giveaways. Some forwards I did not cover in this is Ross Johnson and Robbie Fabry, as they have both been out for a while. If you want, go check out NHL.com, look up the Anaheim Ducks. You can kind of see how they've been doing before their injuries. And then another player that I did not list is Brock McGinn. It's very, very questionable if he'll even return after having to get ACL surgery. He was playing so well. He's been a freaking firecracker down there in San Diego, and he was finally starting to light things up in Anaheim. And it's very unfortunate that he did have to undergo that surgery. So we wish him all the best. I would like to see him back in the orange sweater of Anaheim. But that's all for the future. So that's kind of a little breakdown of how the forwards have been doing. Definitely an improvement from the last few years, but you can see the giveaways have been much, much higher than the takeaways, and there's scoring here and there. We've got some pretty interesting feats this year with players breaking their scoring, their goals, their assists. One thing that I wanted to point out is Mason McTavish this year. He has career high in goals, assists, points, and drum roll, please, hits. He has set his career high in hits this year as well. So Mason McTavish has just completely been taking off this season. Absolutely love the way that he's been playing. And know what else I love is all of our Locked On NHL shows. And I definitely appreciate and love all of the fans that tune into Locked On Anaheim Ducks. So thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Locked On Anaheim Ducks is also anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And if you're listening to the audio version, please go to the YouTube and subscribe. It helps numerous. It just helps out so much, and we love you. And I cannot thank you enough, everybody out there. It was so great to see you at the watch party tonight as well. So tune in every Monday through Friday for Locked On Anaheim Ducks. My name is Kyle Carr. Be good out there.